Reuters is reporting on an incredibly disastrous attack in Syria carried out by government forces. They say, quote, the Syrian Air Force bombarded an area northeast of Damascus on Monday, keeping up its attack on a rebel-held district where close to 100 people were killed on Sunday in an airstrike on a market, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said. Sunday's airstrike on Douma, 10 miles northeast of Damascus, was one of the bloodiest attacks of its type in the 4-year-long war. A United Nations Commission of Inquiry into the Syrian War has previously accused the government of indiscriminate shelling and aerial bombardment, including the use of barrel bombs regularly dropped on crowded areas. Okay, so the situation in Syria is an absolute mess, almost to the point of being unsalvageable, in my opinion. So let me give you some of the specifics on that here. The total number of people dead in the civil war ranges from, some say as low, although it feels fucked up to even call this low, as 140,000 people, and the high number is 330,000 people. Now again, it varies whether you're looking at Amnesty International, the United Nations, investigative journalists, or all the various Syrian opposition groups that are trying to do work on the ground there. Now, the UN number, by the way, I should say, because this is the one that I believe the most, because I think they're the most objective. They say it's about 220,000 people that are dead. 120,000 of them are on the government side, by the way. So it's you have fighters on both sides that are being killed, of course, but then you have massive numbers of civilians on both sides being killed. And by the way, about 10 million people are displaced now because of the Syrian civil war. That is a stunning number, man. And actually 60 Minutes, not that long ago, had a fantastic report on the relief effort in trying to help these people, and it's like, it basically mission impossible. I mean, how do you take like millions of people and set up like camps where they have try to give them some decent standard of living? I mean, it's next to impossible. So it's 120,000 on the government side that are dead, 75,000 to 120,000 on the rebel side that are dead. So we're looking at pretty even number of deaths here on both sides. Now, on the pro-government side, of course, there's the Syrian military. Then there's some grassroots defense forces. And then there's also Hezbollah. And then on the rebel side, of course, you have some Kurdish forces. You have the FSA, the Free Syrian Army, and its affiliates, and there's a whole bunch of different branch-off groups there. But then you also have ISIS and al-Nusra Front. ISIS, of course, you all know who they are. And al-Nusra Front is the official al-qaeda affiliate in the region, another jihadist group. So when I look at this situation, I'm honestly just flat out overwhelmed by it. Because it's so fucked up, and so many civilians and good people are getting killed, and they're caught up in this fight. And it's like, well, what's a good outcome? Is there a good outcome? I mean, what'll likely happen if Assad falls, for example, is you have the strongest, most organized group on the rebel side is gonna fill the power vacuum. Now, who is the strongest and most organized group on the rebel side? Without question, jihadists. Whether it's ISIS or al-Nusra, they by far are the most organized. In fact, the Daily Beast was writing articles about that probably about 2 years ago now, about how they have a system set up where when they come in and they take over a town, it's not like they just take it over and all they do is slaughter civilians. Oftentimes, they actually set up some form of an infrastructure to help civilians as long as they're against the government regime and as long as they're Sunnis. If they're Christians or Shias, they probably get beheaded. But they're the most organized, so if Assad falls, they'll almost certainly fill the power vacuum. And let's say Assad doesn't fall. Let's look at that outcome. What would happen then? Well, then it feels like the fighting would still be indefinite. Why? Because it doesn't look like the rebel groups, the jihadists, are going to give up. I mean, they view this as like their holy mission. They want take out Assad, and they want to take over the territory because they want to add to the caliphate. So it's almost like there's no good outcome. And since there's no good outcome, what did the U.S. decide to do? Get directly involved. Only the U.S. would do something like this. They're like, oh, there's a person who we think is a dictator, Assad on that side, and Hezbollah on that side, who we rank as a terrorist organization, list as a terrorist organization. So we have those people on that side. On that side, we have jihadists. What a great fight for us to get involved in. But wait, you admit that you don't like either side, but you still want to get involved? Why do you want to get involved? That doesn't seem to make much sense. So what do? They went from, at first they said, we're going to attack the Syrian regime because they're the worst. And then when they realized ISIS was on the other side, they switched. And they said, no, we're attacking those guys. They're the worst. But wait, so you just became an ally with the guy who you said you hated, Assad. They flipped sides in a war. Nobody noticed or nobody spoke about it. But then what did they do just recently? We spoke about it. They're like, we're actually bombing both sides now. You're bombing both sides? Who does that? No, seriously, who does that? That's a thing? How is that a thing? It's so necessary and so important that we get involved in this conflict. We should bomb both sides. I mean, what a tepid endorsement of an outcome. What kind of an outcome do you want? And that there, of course, lies the imperialist do-gooder mindset of the U.S., which always fails. This idea that, well, we don't like Assad, let's get rid of Assad. And also, by the way, because Assad is aligned with Iran and Russia, they're like, we don't like him, so we'll try to get rid of him. But then, when the rebels win, which we want to happen, we got to make sure that we got to keep ISIS and al-nusra out of power and have no jihadists and set up a secular Sunni government, and then that Sunni government will be kind to us and will snub Iran and will snub Russia. I'm not kidding. You don't think this is what goes on in policy circles in Washington? I guarantee you this is what goes on in policy circles in Washington. And Obama looks like he's fallen for it at this point. He's like, yes, get rid of Assad. We don't like him. Yes, have the rebels win, but don't let the strongest rebels and the most organized rebels take over. Brilliant. Except it's not going to work. By the way, where have we seen this before? Iraq. This is what George W. Bush did. Remember back in the mid-2000s? What were the liberals screaming? Why are you getting in the middle of a civil war? It's Shias versus Sunnis now. It's sectarian violence. What the fuck are you going to do? Who do you even want to win? They're like, anybody who will be kind to us. And that's pretty much it. So what did they do? Well, they had kicked the Baathists, the secular Sunnis, out of power, Saddam's regime, and they put in Maliki, a Shia who they thought was going to be, loyal to us. How did that work out? What did Maliki do immediately? Started repressing the Sunnis. What happened as a result of that oppression? ISIS rose out of that, along with the U.S. getting involved in indiscriminately killing civilians and further radicalized the region, and Saddam's pissed off Ba'athist generals joined up with them, etc., etc. So every time we get involved, it fucking backfires. So why the fuck would we get involved in Syria? By the way, let me be clear. I absolutely support all of the humanitarian groups, all the international organizations going in there and doing their best to help the civilians. I mean, these guys are absolute heroes. The aid workers, the medical workers in Syria that have to respond to stuff like this, absolute heroes. I feel horrible for the civilians on both sides who are dying as a result of this. But as somebody who's a third party here and is not involved in the civil war going on, I don't have an answer. I don't know what to do. And I don't necessarily think it's our choice to determine what to do. It has nothing to do with us. The Civil War has nothing to do with us. So I'm sure everybody knows already I would be out of the region. The only thing that I would view as the goal of the U.S. when it comes to foreign policy in these regions is, obviously, you make sure that you don't have an al-qaeda-like group get their hands on a nuclear weapon. But outside of that, www.mindyourbusiness.com. Now, I get it. Again, my heart bleeds for all the civilians who are slaughtered on both sides. It's horrific. It's disgusting. War is the worst thing ever. But I don't know what we can do about it, and I don't think we're in a position to do anything about it. And I think our track record shows that when we try to do anything anyway, it's not really for humanitarian reasons or altruism, and it'll fuck up the problem further.